advantages and disadvantages of the ERC voluntary disclosure program. You know, the benefits definitely far outweigh the disadvantages. But to highlight the advantages, you know, you get to go to the IRS and say, hey, I got ERC. I really don't think I was eligible. I want to repay 80% of the ERC that you received. Because a lot of people that got it, the money has been cashed, deposited for years, but there's still a lot of people who still haven't received their ERC yet. And you don't need to pay interest on the 80% of the ERC that you are repaying, which that was like if you didn't qualify for ERC or you received any other federal 941, 943, 944 refund, but then it was a refund that was sent in error, which basically is what you're telling the IRS is that your ERC was a refund that was sent in error. Normally you would have penalties and interest for getting the refund and then repaying it. And with the voluntary disclosure program, they removed that penalty and interest. And if you haven't already amended your income tax returns to reduce your wage expense, you no longer have that requirement. The 20% reduction of the ERC is not taxable as income. And from everything that I'm reading, you do not have to reduce your wage expense by that 20%. So for businesses who did get duped or applied for ERC in error or by mistake, or I've actually talked to business owners who have no idea how ERC got claimed for them. They just got checks. And if they contacted me before they deposited the checks, I helped them immediately file to an amended 941 to back out the ERC. I started doing that as a service way back in mid 2021 when the first ERC checks were coming back for people who got PPP and then claimed ERC later. The IRS won't examine ERC on your employment tax return for tax periods resolved within the terms of the ERC voluntary disclosure program. And basically what that means is they're not going to audit you for ERC if you voluntarily disclose that, hey, I got ERC and I wasn't eligible for it. Disadvantages, you have to complete a form SS10. I have that later in the slideshow where we'll go over what's on there. But basically the form SS10 allows the IRS to an extended time to assess employment taxes on income tax return. And this is the one part that I don't completely understand, because if they're not going to audit you for the ERC that you're claiming under the voluntary disclosure program, and if you're filing for all years, I don't see it as being a problem. But basically, the form SS, we'll cover that later. Because there are some things that I don't completely understand, and I can give you my thoughts and educated guesses behind why some of these things are happening. But some of it, I don't even think the IRS understands what is happening, because a lot, they really, from the time they realized that they had a problem with ERC, they sat on it for years without doing anything. And then since September, it's been a lot of really swift action. So I think there's still going to be room for negotiation and things with ERC voluntary disclosure program. A disadvantage is the terms of the program require you to full pay. The amount of the ERC VDP liability has to be paid in full upon acceptance of the ERC VDP. And there are some businesses that don't have that money left to pay it back in full. I have a slide where we cover what to do if that is the case, because they do have a mechanism, but I think everything has to be decided by March 22nd. If you already filed amended income tax returns to reduce the wage expense, you do have to go back and re-amend them to add the wage expense back in. For most people, I mean, this is going to reduce their tax liability, but for some people, that tax liability isn't more than the amended income tax return fee.